his way treatment. He's treating the words. So he's always qualifying everything with suggestions and his point of view and this, but then he's going to land certain facts and move through the dialectics or the dialogue. I shouldn't say dialectics. Anyway, back to what I was getting at with my point of making this video is that Cory mentioned he wasn't a deconstructionist, and Derrida has done a great deal of work to split ontological from ontotheological argumentation, and I almost want to say ontophilosophical. So if we have an ontotheological theology and ontotheology, philosophy, ontophilosophy, if you will, I'd say Cory is really playing off of Heidegger and the authors that he's read very heavily in order to promote and keep moving forth a notion of ontotheology or ontophilosophy, which matches very well ontotheology. And this is why he's excusing the theological gods, but he's matching everything in terms of an ordering, the Western approach, a mission within the Western approach, a becoming, an awareness of your social surroundings with this. But the reason I bring this up, the reason I like to talk about, or I guess the point that I'm driving at with this is that Derrida's work is similar to the eidetic realm of the not unicorn, where he's trying to he makes difference misspelled to defer away from words themselves, away from concepts themselves, where difference misspelled functions more like a symbol. It separates the sign from the signifier, and it splits basically ontotheology from philosophy, ontic philosophy, I'll say. And it leaves kind of a space, an eidetic space between the two, as far as I can read. Now, the reason I say this is because consider for a moment all the times that you've listened to Cory mention the cosmos and our connection to the cosmos. This starts out as, he wants to make certain that no one's drawing these lines or these boundaries of autonomy and calling it dogmatic individualism or dogmatic atheism. So he makes certain that dogma is like a force, and even in one of his recent videos, he's constantly quoting and name dropping, but he's bringing in words like, well, philosophy in a nutshell should stay there. Well, should it stay there? Is it okay that, for example, Gary elaborates something, about his world, and does not the tonal content of his discussion, kind of like you don't know a book verbatim, you get themes, you can cherry pick statements and gather something from it, but the book has a tonal quality that is to say it's maybe a psychological description of the author and how the author is played on you. Same thing with Gary. Gary may rant some things that are not played, but he has a tonal quality to him, and if he wants to call that in a nutshell, that appears to be kind of abusive, and maybe they need to just take the argument to the street and have it out that way. But okay, once again, my point is that Anton refers to the cosmos, and if you look at Daniel Everett's work on non-recursive language for the Piraha tribe, he'll notice there's no recursion in that language, and it's caused a lot of people to reconsider their other analysis of these non-Occidental, non-Oriental primitive languages, oral languages. And the reason I bring that up is because in their language they have a word that Daniel describes, and this word is I'm going to get it wrong, but it's like intepet. And Daniel describes this as um, a limit of one's experience, the limits of one's experience, and he describes it as they they see objects come into their experience and leave their experience, and they say inhepet go, inhepet come, inhepet appears, inhepet leaves, and they're referring to some things that are completely based in empiricism. And what I'm getting at is this: is that Cory will utilize in his dialogue. Just kind of notice when he uses the word cosmos to make certain that no man is an island arguments are put forth, and that he can continue this treatment. That the problem. The problem that I see is that he's using a sign-signified notion of cosmos. Now, I can experience the air because the air is empirical, but I don't experience the cosmos. Meaning, there's no empiricism to the signified word cosmos. It's not an empiricism, and so to say that I am through and through a part of it, I am not separate from it, is based in a Western ontology or ontological description, and this is embedded within recursive languages, so Western languages, and it's not an empiricism like the ipet experience. It's something that I do not experience. I do not experience the cosmos. So the separation, the difference between the sign and the signified, the difference that a deconstructionist takes on, separates my considerations of where Cory wants to say I am incorporated within the cosmos. I am in continuity. I am in metabolism with the cosmos. I'll say I'm in metabolism with my environment to some extent, but even environment is not really empirical. So there's some signified that are not empirical, and we know the difference between abstract terms and empirical terms. And so I'm just trying to point out some of these gaps as Cory's meandering back and forth and kind of, meshing, kind of like a wave. He's meshing a lot of things together to import a particular thesis. His, whatever his schooling is. Once again, my earlier criticisms of what he's doing still stands. I don't think that it's. I don't think that he's. I think he's covering a lot of great ground. He's given everybody a lot of consideration, but as far as what deconstruction is trying to do with language in terms of opening up spaces and opening up differences, is and I'll put a link to the recent video that I put on his last video where, like, Chomsky separates words that are there. Well, they're not actually words. He separates invariant words by putting in a symbol in between them. That symbol is connected to a word or a letter, but it is not a letter, but it functions as, and this is what we use for codes. This is what our programmers use all the time. So you have these invariables. They're not variables, they're invariables that lie between either other invariables or variables, and they have a particular function, but they're not a part of the codice. They're a break within the language. They're eidetic, I guess you could say. They're part of the eidetic structure of a codice. And you see this when